Good morning. Really appreciate everybody coming. Eric's a little bit tied up, so we're going to go ahead and start, and his stuff is at the end anyway, so we'll be okay. Everything's going well financially, I hope, except for the... Okay, there we go. Yep. Okay, what I did was go back to 24, 25, and 26 just to give you a comparison of how we're doing over those 3 years in most cases. Through July, you can see the numbers. I don't have to read them to you, but pretty consistent, better than 24, not quite as good as last year, but not that far off. In addition to the regular uses needed or general donations, we've been striving to have additional revenue streams to help with the overall income. We were fortunate enough, as most of you probably know, to have the library folks join us in the two of the rooms upstairs on the third floor for, I guess it was from September through May. So we ended up, I think, making like $10,000 or $11,000 overall, but $66.50 this year. I'm sorry, in 25, and $5,000 in 26. Investment-wise, covers CDs that we purchase regularly to try to keep some income coming from investments or from income interest, and also, we have money in our bank accounts. Our checking account does not have interest bearing, so we keep that very, very low. But our funds account, which is our savings account, is paying, right now they're paying 2.49%, which isn't great, but it's better than zero. So last year, for the whole year, we did 27,188, and this year so far we've done 18,002. And we're on a pace to do about the same as we did last year. One CD did mature in July, and we were coming up a little bit close on some of our money for some of the funds, so we've transferred that into our fund account at the bank for now, until we see how the interest rates are going to be for the CDs. We were 2025 is the whole year. Yep. Sorry, a little bit confusing on this slide. All right, so total revenue, which includes uses needed, those are the two revenue streams, and some contributions to things like deposits for mission trips and that sort of thing are also included in our revenue. And again, I compared the 3 years just to give you an idea of how we're doing, and we're almost exactly the same as we were last year, so going well. Expense-wise, in 24 we had over 400,000. We reduced that with some cost savings in 25 to bring it down to 395, and so far this year we're at 241. That's through July, so theoretically we're going to be lower than we were in 25, but there are some expenses toward the later part of the year that bumps that up a little bit. Bottom line in 2024 was slightly higher than 2025, and we're on pace to do about the same thing we did last year in 2026. That's so far this year for July in 26. What is the bottom line? The bottom line is all of our income that comes through normal donations, not those that you want for specific funds like memorials or building fund or that type of thing. We pull those off to the side and put those in our savings account and only use them for those purposes. but we do use them every time we can for those purposes. And what we've been able to do is use some of the built-up funds over the course of the last 2 or 3 years and use the funds rather than the regular donations coming in, which gives us additional regular donations that we can put in the bank in savings. In other words, we're converting a lot of the funds, which are very restricted to only be used for one purpose, into unrestricted cash that can be used for anything. So the bottom line isn't really income versus expenses because we're using the funds to offset some of the expenses. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. I hope I'm not confusing you, but that's the general idea. Restricted funds used, and this is tying in with what I just talked to you about, we pulled 88,978 in 24, 65,000 in 25, and 31,000 so far in 26. These numbers do not include the numbers we use for the capital projects campaign because that's a separate issue. We are in good position. We thank you for your tremendous generosity. We also thank you for being here and listening to us, and I hope that I've been informative. We do have time for questions later on if you have some that you've saved up, but now it's my turn to turn it over to Sally Markello, our chair of the finance team.
Thank you. And I think I'll stay down here unless you need me to be up on high. I should be able to. Right, okay, thank you. We didn't practice the clicker, so let's see if I can do that. Okay. It's been about a year. I'm really just going to be speaking about the Restoring Our Future campaign and what's been going on with that. But as George pointed out, the finance team, which includes the treasurer, of course, meets every month, and we talk about all of this, unrestricted funds and giving, uses needed stuff, which is critical for the day-to-day operation of the church and the repair of regular things that break, from time to time, and the campaign and the stewardship plan and all the rest. So we talk about all of those things, and I'd like to think that we could both answer questions about either one, but I always yield to the treasurer for the final numbers. Anyway, it's been about a year that we've been talking about the campaign. In a way, it seems like it was just last week, and in other ways, it feels like I've been doing this my whole life, But the excitement that we had a year ago was infectious, I think. But also, if you look around this place and see what we've accomplished in 1 year, I think, and by we, I mean the entire we. That's not a small group. That's not a committee. That is every single person in this room and who's, come into our church through the year. It feels much fresher. And I want to remind you that when we started the campaign, we wanted to focus on ways that we could make this facility, restore this facility and its capacity to best accomplish our mission. So we didn't make the sanctuary look pretty just for aesthetic reasons. We did what we did to restore it, to be sure that we could have another 50 years of meaningful worship and, special events in there. Same thing in this room. We didn't just spruce up this room, but we made it more of a multi-purpose place so that it's a meaningful worship place, but it's also, and will be, obviously we're not quite finished, but that it will be attractive for all the uses that this church puts it through. Tomorrow we'll have a blood drive in here, we do the Rise Against Hunger in here, we do Nights Welcome. Think of all the things all through the year that we do in this room and in this building to serve our mission and to serve our community. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So I just wanted to make that point. But yes, about a year ago, we started with the kind of quiet part of the campaign and the sanctuary work started, but we actually had our kickoff in October of last year. As of now, we have pledges of over $1 million, which is fantastic, yes. And we have already realized giving toward those pledges of $600,000. So 1 year into a 3-year campaign, we've had slightly over half of our pledges come in. I will say some of the giving that we've realized so far was not pledged. Some of it has just been unexpected gifts from people who, for whatever reason, either couldn't or didn't want to make a pledge, but have been able to donate anyway because they've maybe felt passionate about the idea behind it. And also a few of those dollars are dollars that have come from restricted funds, like George was mentioning. We've been able to use some of the organ fund money, for example, toward the organ leathers, so that we don't have to use the rest of the campaign money for that. We can spread it around. So, but anyway, still, for us to be over half is amazing. And as you may recall, we worked with a group called Horizons Consulting, which works exclusively with churches on stewardship activities, and they're very happy with how we're doing so far. So that's great. You can see most of the work that we've done. There are things that you may not be able to see, but that have also been done. And as I've said before, out on the bulletin board across from the office, there's an ongoing project stack list with monthly updates. And it might be Friday of this month, for this week, before I get that updated, but I'll try to update it for August before Friday. Anyway, about the project stack. A year or so ago, when we first started, we presented a list of topics that we had, the Capital Campaign Group had put together based on input. But we've had a very significant project come up that was not anticipated at that time. We talked about it at our last congregational conversation, and that's the elevator. There are several points of failure with it that cause us to feel that it needs to be restored sooner rather than later. Given the activity that I was just talking about, how much traffic there is in this building with our Thursday lunches and with the blood drive and with the Night's Welcome, everything that happens, we really need that elevator to be reliable. And so we are preparing to move forward, and by we, I'm including the facilities team. This goes beyond the capital projects group, but we're proceeding with moving forward with elevator restoration in the second quarter of 2027. And because the elevator use is tied inextricably to all the mission activities that I was just talking about, we feel that it's reasonable to use campaign funds for that if necessary. It's a big ticket item. You'll see on the next slide, it's about it totally, the elevator work and also the additional work that has to be done to get us up to code will be about $180,000. So it's not just something that we can write a check for out of our regular uses needed funds. We do have reserve funds that we can use for it, but we feel like it's really tied to the concept of the campaign. Remember, this is only year one of a 3-year campaign, and we're hoping that the ultimate giving level will exceed the $1 million, and so it can just be part of it without our having to adjust any other parts of the project stack. But there are other things still to come. After our last congregational conversation, we did distribute the giving letters, just to remind those of you who've made pledges what the pledge was and what the giving was at that time. If there's any point when you need to know where you are in your giving, you can either use Breeze or contact the treasurer, and we'll get you a report. But we're not handing out any forms or letters today. We're just talking about our progress. So the things that are completed, you've seen, we've talked about almost all of them, but we did have as part of the project stack a communications manager, and that is Whitney, who I think is, oh, she may be back, okay. But anyway, the communications hire has happened, but also all the sanctuary refresh, most of the upper fellowship hall and window replacements. We're still in progress with a few construction items in this room, obviously, and we also are in progress with exploring acoustic solutions for this room and for the sanctuary and the organ restoration. Actually, the new leathers themselves arrived, and so we are moving forward with that. So that's what's happening right now. And if you recall, well, so those are the figures that are up there right now represent encumbrances that we've already committed. So now, what's next? I already mentioned the elevator restoration. We also will be looking at the HVAC improvements that were part of the project stack. As an aside, many of you are aware that we had an HVAC situation in the kitchen. From a finance team perspective, we're hopeful that we can use building fund or unrestricted dollars for that and not have to not use the campaign funds. But I'm just mentioning that so that you know we're trying to stick to the project stack. The elevator is an outlier in terms of add-ons. Future phase are the other things, the big ticket items that were in the project stack. And again, those will be done as funds come in for the rest of the balance of people's pledges. We're expecting at least another $400,000, and then hoping that, as we get new members or as people's circumstances allow, they might be able to increase their pledges, their giving. And we have had some examples of that already. And then also we'll go back to the sanctuary for some kind of behind-the-scenes AV and electrical work. So that's what's going on with the capital campaign. 1 year in, it's a 3-year campaign, so we will continue to be working on all of this stuff. I think we have a lot to celebrate. But if there's a message I want to leave you with, it's that in order to get to the third year and continue with the projects, we have to have giving continue as enthusiastically, I hope, as it has already been. I should have added at the end of my slides our gratitude as well. I mean, the whole church should be grateful for everybody who's participated in the campaign and worked on it, because we really are making great progress. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Sally and George. It's not already obvious, our finances, our stewardship, and all the operations surrounding that are in such good hands. And you should never, ever have to worry about that. And that also includes finance team members, Nancy King and Susie and Heidi, and who else am I missing? Becky, and the memorials, and somebody else, and John. And anybody else, I know that many of you have also contributed to that work over the past. Thank you. It's just so refreshing to know that we get to focus on the main things because they're good people in good places. So anyway, many thanks. There also reminds me of an old quote, and I don't remember where from in the continent of Africa the quote comes from, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's exactly what I think is a good summary of this campaign and what it's shown us. As we started looking towards what are those needs, those things we were trying to solve, you saw the slides for 2024, that number was a lot lower. And the last couple of years, thanks to y'all's investment in this church and its mission, the last 2 years, those numbers are much, much better for getting us towards that Vision 2030. And we developed that vision, and just a reminder, for what are the 3 pieces of that vision? First, experiencing life-changing growth. We have to answer the question, why church and why this church? And we're getting better and better at answering that question, especially at the session level, and understanding, okay, who are we specifically trying to throw the dart at to reach? Doesn't mean we're going to include the whole community, but who at this particular moment are we trying to reach? And we tried some things this last semester with parent groups on Sunday nights that were wildly successful. And really, that's just a matter of capacity. Folks willing to help with the 20-some kids that showed up in this end of the building that we had to manage and provide care for while we provided a meal for these parents, most of which have come to a Sunday morning worship not very often, but they've just expressed such great gratitude for this thing in their lives that gave meaning to them. So why church and why this church is questions that we continue to answer and to clarify so we can all together be growing in a good way. Living as a multi-generational place for families was the second point. On Thursday, I had the great privilege of bringing 3 of my kids were in camp, but Waverly had the joy of coming up and helping them make meals with Donna, our director of children's ministry, who helped to make sure that these kids know that it's not just about how often you pray or what are the songs you sing, or what you believe about God. Your belief should show up with your hands and your feet. So our kids made the meals this Thursday and then a month ago Thursday as well. But because of the help of good adults, some of which are in this room, and even adults from Kirkwood who come and help, they were able to serve that community. And that's what it's about. It's those relationship times of growth and get to see, oh, these people care about the same things I care about. And that faith starts to get sticky. We've talked about sticky faith before. Don't tell me, you do. We always say, do as I say, but it's really you're going to end up doing as I do. So they're watching you and all the good things you're doing. We've got kids becoming like you, which is, I think, a good thing, although he may disagree. And then finally, the third plank, activating our facilities to become sustainable community hub, as we talked about before. When someone thinks about community and helping the community, one of the first thoughts in their head should be the First Presbyterian Church of Hampton, because it is helping the community in such incredible ways. And also, we came up against a problem thinking about all of these things. Great, a lot of these things are already true of us. How do we get people to know that? And that is a communications problem, which is why I'm so grateful that one of the biggest investments we've made this semester, if you will, this first half of the year, was in our communications strategy, both from the Restoring Our Future campaign that you allowed financially for to make it happen, and then for the calling from God that got placed on Whitney Rosario's heart. God bless her. And she has already, this past month, done tremendous work, just getting her fingers in trying social media, trying this stuff that she knows, and she's starting to take on different pieces, and we're trying to see what works with our team. We had a great staff meeting last Tuesday, and all guns are firing on that. However, it's only the beginning. It's only dipping the toes in. Start on September 11th, Ken Meyer, who's a consultant of communications who has worked with billion-dollar companies and big churches and little churches and little companies all over the country. Kem will be coming here and working with several of us in the communications work to help develop a good strategy around how do we build a system that's sustainable, that works for all of us over time, and communicates the good news about what God is doing here effectively and authentically. Because more than anything now, people are not trusting institutions. You've heard me preach about that a million times, but they are trusting people who are authentic and are willing to show their warts and all. I really love the stuff that Whitney has already started putting on social media, because it's you. It's your faces, you being the you wonderful place that this is, and that's what's real. Right? You can't produce someone giving food to someone that they just made. That's just who we are. The second piece we started on is starting to think about reorganization. How do we realign our church? And the reality is that most churches, but especially ours, over the course of the past few decades, have been moving more and more to what modern workplaces are, which is a connection of teams. We used to have one elder, was the elder in charge of all the things. If you were the, say, the Christian education elder, well, adult and children and youth and anybody learning anything was under your purview. But when you stop to think about it, some of that wasn't necessarily true. You have the Thursday morning men's group, and, well, was the elder have to go to that as well as the Monday night Bible study and the Sunday morning Westminster, right? Really, we have a collection of teams and small groups that do so many of the functions and features of this church. From the Sunday morning hospitality team who hopes to make that delicious coffee and donuts appear magically for us every Sunday, hallelujah, to the folks who help make things that are more visible happen. Those are teams that we all need to be understood and tracked, understood how well they're going. So, for example, I would say that the worship planning team is a green light team. We created a spreadsheet to try to track all these teams, and it's been a big part of our work. The worship planning team is a green. It's a go, because we know who's running it, we know who the team members are of that team, and we know they meet regularly, and generally speaking, you come here and worship is planned. Hallelujah. However, everyone say, hi, Rob. Hi, Rob. We're putting the AV in a yellow, not because it's not working well, but because poor Rob needs support. He needs more team members. both at 11 o'clock, where Michael Perry has been working very hard for us, streaming that service, or here at the 9 o'clock, where Rob's been working very hard for us. That's a yellow in our ministry team health tracker because it needs support. It needs folks like you who are willing to say, I don't know if I could do that, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to help understand so I can help recruit somebody else who I think gifts would match there. And that's what we can do when we start to track and start to understand. Because we have dozens of teams at this church. When you actually start to writing down, look at the spreadsheet, it's really impressive what you all do for the sake of this church and this community. So it's been a big piece of what we've done. It sounds like just a spreadsheet, but I think psychologically it's helping me understand our church a lot better. What do we have upcoming? We've got a lot of ironing out now that we can see what we're doing and who's in charge of what. We've got some reds and those teams and some yellows, and it means that Session's going to put its weight and its power behind helping to make some of those teams even better, which means you may be getting a phone call. Because if it's mission critical and it's a red, that means we got to bring our resources, our time, our energy to that work. Or Session has to do some wrestling to say, okay, can we let it lie until someone feels a passion around that? And for some teams, that might be the appropriate choice. As I said, Ken Meyer and Megan Heaton, one of her co-workers of her team of 6, they're going to be here on my birthday, on September 11th. I'll spend like 6 hours here over the course of a Friday night and Saturday morning going over that strategy and getting a better sense of how we're going to engage in the months coming. And then the third piece that we're struggling with more is thinking about membership engagement. What does it look like from the first time you hear about First Presbyterian Church of Hampton to ending up worshiping, maybe digitally, maybe it's in person. We prefer eventually you maybe are getting here in person, and then over time, maybe you're getting part of a small group or a formational experience and serving the community, and then maybe serving this church along the way in a leadership position, right? That's a timeline. Some would call it a funnel, or I would call it a playlist from my 90s cassette and CD upbringing of burning CDs. Remember we used to burn CDs? My children asked me, why did you put CDs and DVDs in flames? I was like, no. You're just trying to, it's like a playlist. What's a playlist? We have to figure out how do we successfully engage folks and get them from one step to another. A large part of that is just communications. And so that's another big piece. So communications, they say, is the tide that lifts all the boats, because it's going to lift up our Restoring the Future campaign. We hope to have an updated web page for that in the future with more pictures about the work that's been done. It'll obviously lift up this engagement process for new members, where there's places that we can send folks to go. What if I have more information or questions, where do I go? They'll have an answer to some of that. So you can see how the comms piece is really so essential to helping so many pieces. For getting volunteers for the many teams we just talked about, including children's ministry, which desperately needs some more folks to make that continued sustainable ministry. But most of all, you got to know, as George and Sally just said, that you are the reason this place is amazing. All the work you're doing, all the care, the compassion, you just give it all for the sake of this peninsula. I'm so grateful to be a pastor here, to be working alongside you all, that my kids are slowly finding roles as they are growing up to be able to serve in AV or on Thursday meals, and just finding ways for all of us to, and teaching them the way they should go, as the Proverbs say, and that they will not depart from that. So thank you for everything. Do you have any questions for any of the three of us? Yeah, Robin.
Was the answer about any unforeseen expenses, the elevator. And I'm just curious, I live in a building with an elevator, and the codes people came and it failed inspection. Was there, is it so urgent because something like that happened, that we had the elevator inspected and they said it's not meeting the I'm just curious.
Who wants to talk elevator? Wes, would you like to come forward and talk elevator in 60 seconds or less? Because it's a long journey. I will add that my favorite part of the elevator journey has been our hospitality for Casper the Ghost, who would occasionally, before one of these ingenious repairs happened, open the door and then close it, and then go up a couple of floors and open the door and close it, and then go in the middle floor. And Casper had a good time, but I don't know that Wes, who is heading facilities right now, had such a good time with that.
We have not failed any inspections. We've had parts fail, and the elevator is obsolete. There are no parts available. There are similar type elevators within a couple states from us, and one of them has been waiting over a year for spare parts coming from an elevator in Sweden that has gotten condemned. We don't have parts. I evicted Casper. I've been working on the elevator. I am not a certified elevator repairman, and I've gone as far as I can go, and it needs to be redone.
And the redoing, I'll just add that the redoing will require some code work. Again, we haven't failed any codes, but because we're putting in an elevator in 2027, not in 1990, some of the requirements have changed. So that's why, in addition to the elevator parts, there's some mechanical work that will have to be done to be sure that everything is at code when we finish. And I will say, Wes has been band-aiding this thing, and we have faith that we will be able to limp along until we come up on the elevator company's schedule second quarter next year.
Unfortunately, I'm familiar, the elevator, my building was out for 44 days. And I texted the manager every day, day 23, day 24. I'm on the 4th floor, but I had neighbors who are walkers, who on lower floors. So,
Yeah.
and there was something about a part that they couldn't find, it had to be created. So
you can see why we feel that we need to get this done, and why we feel it's at least adjacent to the original intention of the campaign. So that's why our timing, again, I faith that eventually over the 3 years we'll get to everything that was on the project stack, but why it's a priority for right now. That, I hope.
Hard to imagine enjoying these beautiful new windows, and so many other things up here in the upper in the education building if you can't get to them, right? So it is a priority.
Suggestion for AV, some of the geekiest individuals I know are young people under 15. Could we tap Abe and Kathy and other people who work with you to see if there's some youth that would be interested in supporting that?
Yeah, one of my kids is helping. They also come with typical teenage challenges. Growing edges. Is that fair to say, Rob? Is that the? Yeah. So yes, and they are growing in their capabilities, and also, it's not quite a full stand-in. Best youth and children mentorship programs and work in church it's alongside work. It's a solidarity work. It's being multi-generational. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I noticed anyway, you had like 100,000 for playground, is that correct?
Yes, that's what is in the estimate. That's the right word.
Yeah, I know you want to be involved and be an asset to the community, I understand that. But I also understand that the old playground had a heck of a lot of used needles and stuff that you didn't want there. It was a safety issue. I'm just throwing that out for you guys to,
Absolutely.
I'm not against it, I'm just saying.
I'll let you guys say more about this, but I'll say two things about that. One was that when we started asking questions about the project stacked and what people thought about the things that we're looking at, the playground for some people was the highest thing on the list, and for others it was the lowest thing on the list. And I think it still lives there for a few reasons, but one of them is our confidence, especially given some of the things we've heard, that the community around us would really love to participate in that process, and I would financially, if nothing else. And I personally don't think it's a good idea to put one in without that engagement with the neighborhood associations around us saying, okay, if we're to do something like this, how do we try to prevent needles? How do we try to prevent that it's not just a resting place for our friends who are experiencing homelessness? We want to make sure that we can engage fully, safely. There's no question about the safety of that playground, whether it's the wood falling down or something being left. That's the two things I want to make sure.
Well, the only thing I'll add is, and I should have said this earlier, there's a Project Stack group that is sort of an informal and a flexible membership group, but each time we embark on a new big initiative, we form a planning group to talk about it. And so we haven't done that yet with the playground because it sort of hasn't rolled up yet, but we have been well aware since the very earliest conversations that we had with everybody that when we do decide what to do, what that's going to look like, it's going to require a whole lot of planning and engagement with everyone. So we take all of that into consideration. So yeah, that has come up, and I know we're very aware of it.
That's great, thank you. I'll say one more thing as we go over to Robin is that at our Presbyterian meeting on Tuesday, a representative from Shalom Farms, who's a history professor at Union Presbyterian Seminary in Richmond, just talked about how much engagement happens on that seminary campus because of the community garden they have on the seminary campus called Shalom Farms, and how many people they feed on the regular. And I have a dream. The reality is the safest places are engaged places where people are traversing regularly. The more movement you have, the more likely you're not to have questionable activity happening in any given space, right? There are many ways we can use this lovely green space. We've used it for upward soccer. I know that churches who have a similar size space are looking at everything from building affordable housing, which is, that's sort of a big lift, to dog parks with the city's help. I don't know. But community gardens are a big one. And I know how much this church loves to feed people. And really what's just left there is a question of, does anybody feel called to help lead that endeavor? And if we could find somebody, it doesn't have to be big enough to think about filling the whole thing with plants or food. Just what does it look like if we had 2 beds, 4 feet by 8 feet, that started next spring? What would that look like? So I have a dream that I think connects with that. Is it's not just a playground, right? It's about the engagement around the community. And really, at the end of the day, we have to be answering the question, what does our community need from us? How can we lift up not just the needs, but the assets, the gifts of this community, so we're enabling the strengths of this place to continue to serve God more fully? And so it's not just, there's one thing here, there's a playground there, and there's a library over there, but what's the connection look like? What's the thread? Which of course involves us as we're threading ourselves through these things. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think movement, people bring lots of good things, including safety. But yeah, George. And then we'll get to Robin. Oh, sorry, did you have? Oh, Robin, yeah. And we can fulfill that mandate with a $5,000 playground or a $1 million playground. I mean, I don't know if you've looked at the playground catalogs, but it's incredible what's possible. And again, it comes down to the question, what does our community want or need, right? You can drive to some really great playgrounds, But if you just want to be able to walk to something, what does that look like? And what does it look like to do that in a way that's designed for children? I mean, you know the questions. I don't have to preach to you. You've listened to me preach for long enough today. There are other questions. Yeah, Wes.
All right, so, not to beat a dead horse, the playground. One, we're not gonna use wood. That's what was failing, and that's what was drawing in people who don't want on the playground because kids weren't able to use it anymore. Two, none of the upper structures are gonna be big enough, long enough for an adult to sleep on. So we're eliminating those. We have those considerations already taken care of. And then three, yes, we're worried about the community. We want to involve the community. We have a youth group here. They've been asking for it. We have scouts here. They've been asking for it. Our own internal church has been asking for it for years now.
Yeah, it's like good churches. It's a both and. It's us. It's inside and outside. And healthy churches, that's just one unit. Right? Your generosity is why we're here today. Your generosity is why this church has, for more than a century, been serving this community in such incredible ways. Stories that we've never heard, that are lost to the past, they're buried in the ground out there, buried beneath where the sanctuary now is, when it was only just a dream. Oh, I hope we have the money someday to build the sanctuary we want. For now, we'll build this, but oh, that'd be great. And then that sanctuary builds, oh, I really wish we could connect those buildings someday and put in an elevator so that all may come. Oh, it'd be really great to do that. And all those visions came true because of your fathers and mothers and predecessors and who walked these hallowed halls, who sang with the choir up there when there used to be a choir loft, and who helped to put up the 5/4-inch piece of wood that was one piece from left to right. Just that one piece of wood to me is just the image of what was that made this place what it is now. And you all have that same DNA, and I'm so grateful to be with you. Unless there's any other questions, we're going to close with prayer. Holy God, we give you thanks and praise. Since a time before we can remember, you called out to a people in this peninsula and called us to listen to your mission, your desire for this community. We give you thanks for so many faithful ears and hearts that listen to you. We pray that the visions they had in their hearts are the ones that have echoed over time to us, that's the reason we give to the church and we are giving to this campaign. That's the reason why we've produced this vision that we pray is a distillation of what you've been whispering to us. Help us to be faithful. Help us to keep listening by prayer with our ears and our hearts, prayer with our hands and our feet. And we give you thanks for all those to come who will participate in this future that we're restoring for them. All the ways that you will change lives and bring growth into the hearts and minds of the community in ways that we can't even imagine and dream. God, we are those who dream, and we look for your coming presence continued at this church, with those who come here, with those we can reach because of it. We give you thanks and praise today. Send us out to go to serve you, to carry this love that is in our hearts because of the love you've given us. In Christ's name, amen. Friends, go in peace to love and serve the Lord, and this conversation will see you again in about a quarter.